Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing industry. Searching for Answers is a group of writers throwing pop culture, writing, and publishing into a crucible of clarity, passion, and humor. This group is the Right Pack. In this episode of Right Pack Radio, we're going to talk about writing and meditation. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Right Pack Radio. This is your host and producer, David Allen Lucas, author of Crazy Things, currently working on a superhero/psychological story, and also president of St. Louis Writers Guild, president of Winding Trails Media, and all-around crazy guy, as well as a voice actor. So that is coming out. I am able to do narration, film narration, book narration, animation, including all the voices for computer games and cartoons, etc., as well as commercials. And with me today is my lovely co-host.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Kayembe. I am a speculative fiction writer, and I also write paranormal romance under the pen name Kaseka and Vita. And depending on when this airs, keep an eye out for November. In Lightspeed magazine, you will see something of mine in there.
What? Hi everybody, my name is Chanel Achan. I write all sorts of things, namely science fiction and fantasy.
Brad R. Cook. I am the author of The Iron Chronicles, which is YA steampunk. The Iron Horseman, The Iron Zulu, and Iron Lotus. Check them out. But do be on the lookout for my new series, Steam Tree, The Erdranium Adventure, for ages 10 and up. It's a middle grade. It is steampunk. It is epic. Enjoy. Find out all about it at bradrarcook.com. Comes out this November 25th.
Fedora Amos. I write Victorian whodunits like Jack the Ripper in St. Louis and Mayhem at Buffalo Bill's Wild West. And I am president of Greater St. Louis Sisters in Crime.
I'm Melanie Lucas. I am working on I was about to say paranormal romance, but no, I'm working on a fantasy novel.
I was like, when did you change?
Yeah.
Something happened to my wife and I didn't know it. And our man on the screen from Hannibal, Missouri.
I'm the great and powerful Wizard of Oz. I'm also fantasy author Ryan P. Freeman. Yes, I write fantasy. Yes, it is Ryan P. Freeman. I have Rainspell, which is high epic awesomeness. Then I have The Grey Isleton, which is a novella with dragons and the undead and whatnot. Then I have The Trombonist of Months, which has trombonists and snakes. Who knew? And coming out very soon, after this podcast, will be the illustrated version of The Grey Isle Tale, which is awesome. So check it out, ryanpfreeman.com, and yeah.
Okay. And with us today we have two special guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They are actually, I'm going to call subject experts in this field. First off, I'm going to start here.
Hi, I'm Deborah Weltman. I am an author of 2 decks of cards. There's What If cards. And the first one is What If cards to guide and bless your day. They're questions that help you think your thoughts from a different perspective. The second deck is also What If questions, but they're about money and abundance. And I have a book coming out, God willing, this fall, about my Camino experience walking the ancient pilgrimage trail, the Camino de Santiago. And the book is called Camino Lessons, Losing 21st Century Fears on an Ancient Pilgrimage Trail.
Excellent. And also with me, and I'm going to brag a little bit, my fellow black belt, my sister
Wow.
in the arts.
Mia Silverton. Hi everyone. I am a mindset coach. I work with a lot of writers to help them move past energetic blocks and just basically energetic blocks that you create in your own self to get you out of your head and back into your heart and soul of writing. I'm also a contemporary romance writer. I had my first release earlier this year called The Island, and my second release, The Rebound Project, will be October 27th of this year.
Excellent. So coming up based on when this airs next week.
Yes, probably.
So, yes. So,
why meditation and writing? I mean, isn't
Let's start with what it is.
Yeah.
well? Let's
What
start
do
off
you
with
mean by
what
that?
is
Yeah.
meditation.
What are meditations?
I mean, is this if I'm going to borrow from the TV show Daredevil, which is probably also in the books, in the comics somewhere? Isn't meditation that thing that you just pretended you're not trying to sleep? What is meditation? I'll let either one of you two.
Do you want to go?
Okay, so I've been involved, this is Mia, I've been involved in meditation for quite a number of years, and I like to kind of boil it down just to simplest terms. It's getting you out of the crazy racing thoughts of the everyday world and just kind of bringing you back into the centered collectedness of yourself.
So focus is the key, is that what you would say?
Yeah, I would say definitely focus.
And this
And
is,
meditation does that better than just focusing your brain?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, when you're walking in from your crazy 9-to-5 day, and then, as writers, a lot of us, we work a normal job, but then, I'd like to write at night, maybe after my kids go to bed. That's one of my writing hours. And yeah, just trying to be able to pull myself out of being a mom and all the craziness of the day and back into where I need to be as a writer. And I have a grounding exercise that I do that's very simplistic to teach, but even just something as short as 8 or 10 minutes of just focused meditation, and you can bring yourself just right back to where you need to be.
This is Deborah. I have not been predisposed to one particular form of meditation. I'm kind of a trier. I try this, I try that, I try that. But the one thing that I have stuck with, which isn't a meditation, but it's worked as meditation for me, is an exercise that's on journaling. And it's from The Artist's Way. It's a 3-page download every morning. And what happens for me when I do that is ideas flow through me. So in some way, it's about having that access point from the pen to the paper, freeing my brain up. I'm focused on writing, and my brain gets busy doing other stuff, and I get to go along with it.
It's beautiful.
I've got 3 dovetails, so I'm going to go Brad, then to Kathleen, and then to Chanel. That's actually the order I came up in. So,
Just to throw it out there, because those are all great examples of what meditation is, and the answer to Dora's question, it is focused. It's focused thinking. It's thoughts focused on a particular subject or topic or whatever. At its most core, it is literally just sitting around thinking. So yeah, it is nothing more than sitting around thinking. Where meditation really comes in, and where you're going to get all the extras added in, is when you bring in your breathing and you clear out other thoughts and other distractions and stuff like that to truly focus solely on that one thought, that one image, that these things. It doesn't have to just be one, but it is a way of guiding your thoughts, so that we're all kind of centered and in line, and
Are you
not
sure you
dealing
have
with
to
the
sit,
chaos.
though?
well, that's a
Do you
great
have to
question.
sit?
You don't have to sit.
Oh,
You can
I'm glad to
stand.
know
You
that.
can lay down.
Moving
Uh,
meditation is apparently a thing.
No, actually, katas and stuff like that, like sword forms, are a great meditative way, because it's the motion becomes secondary. Your body's muscle memory is doing all of that, and your mind then just gets to focus.
So it could be anything, practicing the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, but at some
depends.
level, the other activity you're doing has to be something that your subconscious can do, your automatic, memory files can do, so that your thoughts are focused. If you're thinking on how to play Beethoven, you're not meditating. But if you're just tapping out on the keys and letting your brain flow, musicians do that all the time. It's called jam sessions and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Kathleen?
I am so glad we mentioned there are other kinds of meditation. Deborah, thank you. The kind of sitting meditation, clear your mind, does not work for me. The kind of morning pages, Julia Cameron meditation works for me very well. But I've also heard of things like walking meditation, and now you've brought up like katas as meditation because they're repetitive motions. So what kinds of meditation are there, and does everyone work with the same kinds the same way? Obviously sitting meditation, not for me, but like how do you find one that works for you?
I'll jump in. There are multiple different types of meditation out there. There's not just a sitting there going,
I love the birdies.
Asian
Sorry,
is
Dude,
not
dude,
I mean-
let's not just throw the om under.
I'm not throwing it under. I'm not throwing it
Om
under.
has a place.
Yeah.
It does have a
There's
great
time and
place.
a place for everything.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
it's
Sweet.
It does have one.
There's no place.
But there is, as we were talking about off mic, I do 2 types of meditation that, actually now that you mentioned katas, 3 types of meditations that most other people don't do. One is I meditate in what's called a float pod. And that, and yes, I have to go pay for that. One of these days I'll probably end up buying my own because it'll be cheaper in the long run. But what
All
it
that
is,
salt water, I'm not so sure.
I don't know.
Say your
Anyway.
bathtub and a lot of Epsom salts.
It is. It is. And what it is warm water, very warm, inside of a tank. The water is filled with Epsom salt enough that you're not going to drown. You can't sink unless you push your body underneath. And pretty much all sensation is cut off. It's sensation deprivation.
Sensory deprivation?
Thank you.
Yep.
That's one. Another kind I do is borrowed from the art of ninjutsu, which is kachikuri. And that is mostly known as the finger cutting. And I'm not talking about you take your knife and you cut across your fingers. It is
Or
hand
finger
positions. Hand positions, as well as the images that go along with the words, both from a personal point of view as well as the stories and mythology behind them. And that's a very long thing, and not going to go too much into it. But if you know the art, it's meant to focus you on the here and now. And it was used by ninjas. Actually, it was scared the living daylights out of samurai because they thought it was magic that they were doing. And what they were doing is they were preparing their mind and their body to do things that most people cannot do. And the third one is kata, which is, I've always heard it called meditation in motion, in which once you have your kata down, you are able to do it without thinking. And you lose yourself in that moment of that kata. Now, kata is, in short, some martial arts call it forms. Brad, I'm glad you said sword forms because I know you also study the sword, as I do. But all it is really pre-choreographed movements and techniques in an order, conducted from beginning to end. I like to compare it when kata is being done for competition, as kata is to martial arts what the floor exercise is to gymnastics. Usually not quite as flowy, sometimes it is, but it's the same concept. You put things together and you lose yourself in that.
Beautifully shown by Duncan MacLeod in the Highlander series.
Yes.
All his lovely sword play and just meditativeness. Yeah.
Mia just went crazy over here.
Hi, Duncan.
Okay, Chanel and then Ryan.
So I had a quick question. So for those of us that have the attention span of a goldfish, I think that's a few of us here, not pointing any fingers, but but for those of us that have that sort of inability to focus for that long, for various reasons, is there a place in meditation for people like us? And if so, like what tends to be a better way to get us into that sort of focused groove?
I'll let you do it.
I would say anything that you do rote, anything that you don't have to think about. So it could be washing dishes, it could be walking. Walking is great for meditation. The trick is not to take your cell phone, not to have the TV or the radio or some other screen device going, not to have anything that's going to call your attention away. Because if you're standing there washing dishes, eventually stuff comes through to your mind, because washing dishes doesn't take any brain power. So really anything that you do that you don't have to focus on can be meditative.
By the way, Agatha Christie's favorite place to plot a novel.
Ah,
Yep.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Washing dishes. Yep. She has a whole quote about it and everything.
Ryan?
My first introduction to how I go about meditating, preparing for writing, is mental imagery. I'm a cancer survivor, and one of the things that my mom helped teach me to get through the pain was to imagine that we were playing a baseball game, So, and to get as detailed as possible, all the senses until it's in motion in light. And so, what I ended up doing over the years was develop places. And so I would try to get everything down so it's color, it's in motion, all of the senses are playing until I can write that place. And some of those places, I won't say where, but some of those places in my book Rain Spell are from where I've done mental imagery.
Deborah, then Mia.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that happened to me when I was getting ready to walk the Camino, I was doing a lot of practice walking, and one day as I was walking my 2.5 to 3 miles, this guided meditation came through my head. Have you done guided meditation?
We used to do it in theater, and it's great.
Can you just explain what guided meditation is?
Guided meditation, it can be that you've listened to a script, read it out loud, and you're remembering it and saying it in your mind, or you can actually have it recorded and you're listening to it, and someone's taking you on a story, and through that story you're going someplace else and you're having an experience on some level. And so this guided meditation that came to me while I was walking was a healing meditation. And it was about releasing pain and bringing in energies that helped strengthen my body and made my joints more supple when I was walking. And it was great because when I was actually walking the Camino, and I was walking 12 to 15 average miles per day, and I got to the point where I started to be in pain, I would run myself through the guided meditation, and I'll be damned, it helped.
We're allowed to cuss along.
Okay,
You're
good.
fine.
Good.
Yeah, and then back to Brad.
Yeah, Ryan, I'm glad you brought up the visual meditation, because it does play in very highly for a lot of people to be able to, just put yourself in that picturesque state of, where you're trying to go. And that's actually one of the exercises I'll do when I can't do an actual meditation where I'm listening to like the guided chant or whatever. But I have this kind of visual that I picture in my head of like basically a tree rooting into the ground, and I can take myself literally within 10 breaths picturing that, just rooting and grounding back into the earth, and it kind of pulls out my scattered thoughts back to where I need to be.
Also the dentist office.
Yeah, there you go.
Just don't think about the drilling.
Yes. Or the smell of the sometimes of the
Oh,
bone.
yeah.
The smell. The smell's the worst.
Yes, it is.
Beyond the
Just get
sound.
allergies, you'll be fine. You don't smell anything.
Hey, that's my life. I only have 4 senses.
Me too.
But to kind of go into what Chanel was saying earlier, the meditation in motion is a way for the I don't know if it's designed. I'm not going to say that, but it is a path to use if you are unable to just sit and focus your thoughts. And because the reason being, one of the biggest reasons, that notion of just sitting there and doing nothing is counterproductive to a lot of people, especially people with any kind of anxiety disorders or any kind of like ADHD where there's a constant motion to the body, which is what the meditation in motion is really good for. Another one that I'm a big fan of, and actually my first creative writing teacher was a huge fan. He taught us this one, was self-hypnosis to auto-write. Now the auto-writing part never really did it for me, but the self-hypnosis was a way of allowing me to focus my thoughts. And the way he did it, and the way that I learned to do it, was by stepping onto ever-descending escalators. And the escalators take you down. They're taking you down further and further into your mind. Each time you get to the bottom, you step off, you step onto another one, and you keep going further. What you're really doing is you're focusing your mind, and you're bringing your mind into itself. It's the same thing that a hypnotist does to you. If you are susceptible to hypnotism, you will end up in a hypnotic state that is not like, not the control, make you dance like a chicken kind of thing. But it is allowing you to focus your mind, and you can get to the places where you can then auto-write or focused writing or any of those kinds of things, which is writing without any kind of a base of where you're going. So there's no plot, there's no story, there's no character arc, there's no nothing. Words come into your head, and you put them down on paper.
That's what I prefer to do.
Yeah, and then you'll get to the point where some of that makes sense, or it doesn't make sense, or it's just allowing your thoughts to then be guided into a certain place where you're going to start writing and be creative from. So you can do all these kinds of different things to get into these kind of meditative states. From my shamanistic trainings and my druid training and stuff like that, which you're going to have a long conversation with me, I'll go into, but if not, don't worry about it. But from all of that, there's a huge amount of not only guided meditations, but, there's astral projection and there's remote viewing and other forms of this, which are all just ever deeper levels of meditation and focusing your thoughts and focusing your mind in certain ways. So there's a whole world out there if you want to jump into this, but just know that really what it's about is bringing yourself together, letting go of all that built up over the course of a day, and focusing your thoughts to enhance your creativity.
Go ahead for it, then Deborah.
So the walking is also something Julia Cameron suggests in later Artist's Way series books. And I think it's kind of interesting that these are both meditative practices. She called morning pages like meditation for the Western mind. There's another writer that I love, Natalie Goldberg, who has like a Zen mat sitting room next to her writing studio because she's all about sitting zazen. And she paired that with writing. She has writing practice where she kind of does free writing. And that is how she does her writing. And in a lot of ways that is kind of meditative as well, because you're not trying to focus on making everything whatever. You do what's in your head and it all comes out.
So quick question about the free write or not
Free writing, automatic writing.
automatic writing. Have you done that and had anything like come out of it?
No. No. And other people have had wonderful experiences with this, so don't listen to me. However, what for me it became was a way of focusing my mind. And for me, that's all I really need to do. The words, like when I actually write, that's something else. But just random words flowing out of me has always just felt like random words flowing out of me.
Go ahead.
But I firmly believe in the practice.
Deborah?
On two things. One about finding the right meditative movement for you. So at one point I decided I wanted a walking labyrinth in my backyard and I was going to meditate walking on the labyrinth. So I got all of my friends to come over and we built this beautiful labyrinth and put down the landscape cloth and all the mulch and all that good stuff. Well, I started walking it daily, and then after a while I realized instead of walking, I was pulling weeds. And I got to the point where it was not meditative at all. It was, me getting really, I just was OCD about it, and it was not working for me. So I think for everybody, you got to find what works for you, and because it works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. What was the other thing I was going to say?
Free writing is what you threw your hand up on.
About doing the automatic writing. Again, when I was getting ready to do the Camino, I had learned about how to do this automatic writing, and I was practicing it in my morning pages, the morning journal pages. Thank you. And I had some pretty good conversations with myself or whoever it was that was communicating with me. But the way I did it, it wasn't like I was trying to have creative writing come out of me. I was just trying to have a communication with somebody who could give me some answers to some questions that were troubling me. And that ended up going in my writing. So it worked out well.
I was just going to say, I've always called it free writing because for me, my first introduction to the word automatic writing was from Stephen King, used by psychics.
Yeah,
so
it's a psychic technique.
Kind of.
Used to channel in someone else and put the words out on, like, you're channeling the words they're giving you through them. That is definitely a form of it. It depends upon whether or not you want to open yourself up to the spiritual entities that are out there in the universe.
Sorry, Chanel just pointed at me and said, "Not for you." And I'm like, so true. Like, I love free writing, but automatic writing will always have the rose red horror movie connotations, so I'm afraid.
What I know you well enough, and
But what if it's coming from your subconscious mind?
Then I'm like, free writing.
There you go.
If it's somebody else, For me, right now, it's automatic writing. Which
Make it work for you.
something will come up, and because it's me, it will be horrifying. So, free writing is good for me.
Yeah, actually, I completely understand that, concern of tapping into that, what if, what happens space. But I find a lot of times with free writing, what's manifested for me and a lot of people that I work with is that you're actually connecting more with that higher self, like your most fully evolved, perfect inner self that you could possibly be. When everything comes together, you've up-leveled every part of your life, like basically the you that you're trying to create. It's like you're basically connecting with that source of perfect energy for yourself, and they're giving you messaging back. And it's actually so beautiful when it happens. Like for me, it's just like, oh, these answers are just flowing out on paper. And like, what am I supposed to do with this? And like, it just comes to you, and it's really powerful when it happens. So I encourage, try all these different forms of meditative writing and meditation. But there's really cool things that happen.
At the risk of responding in a too woo-woo fashion,
Uh-huh.
if you have a spiritual comfort level with a certain religion or a certain kind of practice, there's nothing wrong with saying a prayer first, or I know some people who set a circle, whatever makes you feel comfortable, so that if you are concerned about energies that you don't want to have in your consciousness, keep them out.
Ryan, and then Kathleen again.
I found that even all the different roles I have to play in my social circles, writing is my one place where maybe I don't always achieve it, but that's my goal at least. Be able to feel free and safe enough to say exactly what I mean. To have my characters do what they need to do, whether or not it's kosher, with different people that I'm around. And being able to get myself in a place, spiritually balanced wise, where I can do that, they go hand in hand with writing. And I don't think that I could write nearly as well enough if I didn't work on trying to balance my own spiritual self through finding ways to meditate.
I'm going to go Kathleen, then Brad, and I've got a question for everybody who does meditation.
Yeah, I notice when I do morning pages, I am a more grounded person and everything in my life goes better. And when I don't, it's usually because I don't want to know something that I will tell myself if I start doing morning pages. Ask me about my life right now. Ask me when I last did morning pages. I'm in for it next time I do them. But we were talking about writing and meditation. I was thinking about ways meditation can help your writing, not just your life, I guess. And Mia, you said that you coach people with energetic blocks. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. So what I've encountered a lot with writers is we tend to get really stuck sometimes up in our heads, like the what ifs and the how tos and how do I do, and I'm shitting all over myself basically. I should be doing this. Like you're basically you're shitting all over yourself. It's crazy. So yeah, I find that we get in these really locked mental spaces, and just being able to get yourself out of that and back into the heart of yourself and root into those different energetic levels of the body. Like I work teaching people about the different chakra levels within the body. So being able to tap into those different creative sources can be really powerful for you. Yeah.
What is that?
Chakra?
Chakra. So there's 7 different energetic levels within the body. So you start the root, which is the base of the spine, and it comes all the way up into basically your third eye celestial state, basically. And you'll find this theory repeated throughout a number of religions, cultures, and philosophies throughout eons of time. It's just, when you can kind of move these areas into better alignment, a lot of our sicknesses can stem from our energetic cells being out of alignment. Even balancing out the different areas of your home by focusing on these different energetic levels can really, just create magic shifts for you, basically.
I'm glad you said that. That was actually, I'm coming to you next, Brad. That you see this in different cultures and religions as well. I would say Kajakuri has, in my opinion, elements of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. I mean, you'll find it is saying throughout many cultures. So even in the can't think of the religion at the moment. I will come back to that. I will go on to my point, which was about meditative in writing. And one of the things I would flip on this is that writing can actually be meditative. We've talked about morning pages. We've talked about other stuff like that. People talk about poetry. Writing can often be a way of getting through an event. We turn it over to PTSD people, write about your experiences. So writing itself can be a meditative act. And I would go for that, but definitely go out and search for all these different ones. To the chakras that we were just mentioning, if you really want to study some stuff, some of the amazing Tibetan Buddhists, and their level of chakra control will let you believe in some of the amazing powers of the body. My favorite is when they ignite their internal fire, and suddenly, steam is literally rising off of them and stuff. It can be really fascinating to see these guys do some of the body manipulation work, and if you believe it, some of them have achieved such a level that they're actually able to kind of mummify themselves as they meditate, which is truly, I don't know if it's the ultimate spiritual act or the scariest thing I've ever heard of. But yeah, it's an amazing level of meditation that you can get through. And I understand people who cannot reach this. It has been the biggest struggle of my life as someone who has raging thoughts running around most of the time, to be able to center and focus that. But when you can, it's amazing what you can accomplish. It's amazing what you can do. It's amazing how much you can focus your thoughts and get creative. Part of the reason why I write books so easily and everything like that, and I don't mean easily, I mean quickly, is because of this level of meditation and focused thought. I don't sit around and dream about where my books are going to go. That's a set period of time at the beginning. After that, it's about focusing in and knowing what needs to get done. Not just that day, that week, that month, but leading up to publication. Now is a huge time for this, right? I'm literally in the middle of massive edits. I got a book coming out in November that is painfully a little behind schedule, but at the same time, I know that I will get it done. And I know that I'll get it done. I have no doubt of that. There is no doubt. So there's plenty of time left. It's just about focusing and knowing what needs to get done and how it needs to get done and when it needs to get done. And meditation and stuff like that, focusing your thoughts, is a wonderful way of kind of being able to achieve that.
Kathleen, Chanel, then I've got a question.
So you said that writing can be meditative, and one of the things that I love about writing when I'm in it is experiencing the state of flow, where everything else kind of falls away and I'm completely immersed, and time actually goes away as opposed to just doesn't exist usually for me. So how does flow relate to meditation, and can you get into a state of flow during non-writing meditations?
I'll let these two answer if you can.
For me, and I'm not a regular meditator, but when I have done meditation, I would say I've gone inward and to a quiet place. And it just feels good. In terms of creativity, I've only had the experience once where I came out of a meditation and had a story. But I didn't go to the meditation for that purpose anyway, so that was just a lovely gift. But for me, the writing, the connection with the writing and the meditation is more like there's a brain function that's kind of the same for me for both of them, because I've been doing morning pages for so long, and my brain knows when I sit down with paper and pen that it's free to allow words to come through, and I will take notes.
Go ahead, Mia, and then...
Yeah, I would agree with Deborah. And I think this is one of those things, getting yourself into a habit and continuously practicing it. Whether it's you're going to choose that route of dishwashing, and using that as your method to kind of center yourself before you write, or, like doing the morning pages or just free writing. Just at least set aside 10 minutes of a day where you're practicing this type of thing. And if you can't find 10 minutes, that's a whole nother discussion we need to have on Right Pack Radio. But yeah, the more you practice, the more that flow is going to happen for you.
This was not originally what I planned on doing, but to address Kathleen's point, I feel like there's a certain way that you can get into flow with meditation that is not exactly. It's actually very similar to, I think, what happens with when you're really into a story. It's the moment where you're sitting there. If you're Allman, you'd be like, I am one with the universe. I am one with the universe. I am one with that pile of laundry over there. What? And once all of those little kind of chitter chatter monkey mind thoughts kind of go away, and you can actually sort of hit this baseline of, okay, I've got it, and this sort of quietness. This is a really powerful way of being. That would be the closest thing that I would attribute to flow. And how that works with writing, for me, like writing and flow is a sort of meditation for me. One of the ways that I've finished my first novel when I was a teenager, that will never see the light of day ever. It was literally me coming home as a preteen and having all these thoughts in my head and not being able to do anything with them. So I would just sit down at the computer and I would just write. And I would just write, and I would write, and I would write. I would write until my parents were getting ready to go to bed, and I would get yelled at for not doing my chores. I would just keep writing. And it was like that every single day. I would just come home and I would write. And it would be this really sort of cathartic feeling for me, to the point where I was, I'd be writing a scene, and someone would kind of snap me out of it, and I'd be confused and almost discombobulated that I was not, in this scene, getting ready for bed, putting on my little fluffy PJs. Actually, I was in my parents' living room, with my mom demanding why I hadn't washed the dishes. So it's, I would say that it definitely has a meditative quality to it.
And I'm glad you said something there, because actually that was going to go to the question I was going to raise to everybody. And that is, you were saying, I'm in the moment, I'm in my dirty laundry. So I want to go to that statement for a second. It is those who don't meditate, I found, who have never done it before or really don't have a concept of it, they are surprised then to learn that you will have outside thoughts come in. And I mean this by, I am focusing on my story, oh, shyster, I've got a 1 o'clock appointment with this doctor. I'm focusing on my story. Oh, I got to make sure I get this done. So my question to you, and I'm going to answer it for myself first, is how do you clear the noise that's out there of your daily life, of social media, etc., out of what you're doing, and be able to get your mind razor focused upon what it needs to focus on? My own answer to that, it depends on what I'm doing, the type of meditation I'm doing. Some cases I am doing an imagery, which I'm glad Ryan brought up a little while ago. I've got 3 locations in my mind, I picture. One that's one of my favorites is I'm sitting underneath a tree and I am looking at a pond. And leaves will fall on the pond. Those leaves are those outside thoughts. And the more I realize those outside thoughts, the more I recognize those leaves, the more of a ripple that causes in the pond. So it's kind of a visual stimulation, like, no, you need to get away from it. It's okay to acknowledge that they exist. You acknowledge them and let them float away. Another thing I will do, I've combined 2 methods. If you've been following me on my Facebook authors page, I've been talking a lot about drive. I don't want to use the term motivation, though some are motivating speeches. I talk about what's called the 5-second. I have it's somebody else's idea. It's called the 5-second rule, and it's something she used to get out of depression and anxiety and so forth. Is she does a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then her mind switches to what it's supposed to be. She'll tell her instead of being anxious. She's a public speaker. She's actually just on CNN all the time, but she's anxious in front of people talking. And don't ask me the name because I can't think of it off the top of my head. I can physically describe her. But what she'll do is she takes the anxiety and realizes that anxiety and anticipation are the same physical aspect. She'll do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I am excited to do this, and the mind listens. What I do with taking that concept and applying it to Meditation is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here, now. I am focusing on the moment. Brad and
She's
Kathleen.
dovetailing.
Okay, dovetail. Cool.
So something that's helpful for me when doing a thing, because I have the memory of a goldfish, is what I learned from the Pomodoro method. If I'm doing something and another thought pops into my head of something else I have to do, often I want to do it or make some note of it because otherwise I will forget until it is past whenever I'm supposed to have done it. So with the Pomodoro method of getting work done, the point is to focus for about 25 minutes and then take a 5-minute break and then focus another 25 minutes. But whenever you have those thoughts of, oh, I have to do this, or oh, this thing is something I need to remember, you write it down and then you set it aside. You will deal with it after you are done with your 25 minutes. And that's something that was really helpful for focusing for me.
Well, to jump back to Kathleen real quick, and I will get to you a question in a minute, David.
Okay.
Kathleen mentioned flow, and I would say that it is all about flow. And life is about flow. And it comes in all kinds of crazy places. My favorite, and this is something that I think most people do, is automatic driving. Where you get from point A to point B, and you don't know how you got there. That is a meditative state.
I feel so safe after I come out of those. I do.
You know, and it amazes me how good the subconscious is at driving. And there's a ton of other things, which is why walking, hiking, for me, kayaking, canoeing, things like this, any of the actions where my body is doing something and my brain does not need to focus on it, that opens me up to flow. It can be walking. I love to hike and walk and think. It's one of my greatest, ways of getting through any kind of block is just to go out and walk through that block, walk right around it. So to that, flow comes in so many places that I think it's important to know. It's important to seek because it is that flow that allows us to kind of get through life easily and stuff like that. Meditation can be a really great way to do that. Now, to David's end of what, what kind of meditations do we do? What do we do for focus and stuff like that?
How do you discharge all the outside thoughts that come in while you're meditating?
To that end, there is a lot of ways of clearing your mind of thoughts, clearing your way, and trying to get through that. And it's a good way of doing it. It's a good way of trying to focus and push out those things. How do you do it? As they come up, you push them away. As you get a new thought, you try not to focus on the new thought, but to remain on the old thought. Now, if you're doing an exercise where you're trying to see where your mind will take you, awesome. Run with it. Go with it. See where your thoughts go. You never know where they'll end up. But real quick, I want to throw out one of my favorite meditative techniques. And this goes into how to get out, but it's one that I found really effective, and it's not an internal one. Most meditative states are about seeking inside yourself. This one is about seeking outside yourself. And so you sit in a room, and you imagine everything that's in that room. Everything I'm sitting around, the chairs, and then you think of the house that you're in. But you don't just think of the house, you think of what builds the house, the rafters that are above you, the insulation that's there, and picture all of this in your mind. Now picture what's outside the house, the grass, the trees, the air, the cars that are parked on the street. Now go further than that, the cars that are driving down the street, the cars that are moving all around you. I happen to live kind of at a T in the highway, so for me, cars are always rushing by. So when I think of this, I always think of those cars. Now where are those cars going? Every one of those cars is living their own life. Every one of those cars has a destination. Every one of those cars is going somewhere. So pull back even further. What's happening? The people who are shopping in the shops around us. Right now we're in Kirkwood, Missouri. We're in kind of suburban area of Kirkwood, Missouri. But if you go back a little bit further, you're going to go up to Lindbergh and you're going to see Kirkwood. And when you pull back further from that, you're going to see St. Louis. When you pull back further from that, you're going to see the greater St. Louis area, all the hills and trees and everything that surround us. The rivers that crisscross through these streets and all the people that are running around. And then you take that further and you start to see the nation below you. And it's when you've gotten to a certain level, you're going to be looking down on the Earth and everyone who's on the Earth and all 7 billion of us and what we're all doing at that particular given moment. And then if you really want to get fun, you start thinking about where are the planets in relation to you right now. Not just that they're out there, but Jupiter is right over there, and Saturn is right over there, and Pluto is way down over there, and I still count him because he's cool. But then you think of like where you are actually in the solar system, and if you really want to get nerdy, then you start thinking where are we in the star clusters and the where we are in our actual solar system. Where's the solar system? What part of the galaxy? We're in that armband. What's going on around that? The entirety of our galaxy is somewhere. And once you've done this, you're basically teaching yourself how to think well beyond yourself and see the macro of the world, not just your little chunk of it.
Kathleen, and then Fedora, because yours is the dovetail.
Oh, well, it was just something close to the beginning of that. It's like now we're on the universe and everything. But,
we can pull it back down.
Yeah, pull it back down and then, back a minute or so. So, something that I do sometimes when I'm writing is certain music will get me in the mood, and get my brain already on the right track that I want it on for a given story. And sometimes what will happen is I'll be listening to a song on the way home, and I'll put the song on repeat and just be thinking story thoughts. And automatic driving, apparently, sometimes, which makes me feel super safe, guys. Really. Oh my gosh.
That explains what happens on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I'm home. Oh my gosh, what would I have done? And I'll go to my computer when I get home with the song still on repeat, and I will zone on the story. And eventually I'll wake up, and it'll be way past time I should have eaten, but I'll have done the writing that I want. So does putting that song on repeat just distract part of the brain?
Yeah. You've got to get rid of the front lobe that does all that worry thinking.
Right.
Because that is what drives our anxieties and all our craziness and all our thoughts and keeps us running 1,000,000 miles a minute. Is those little chunks of our brain that are like, oh, but this, you need to do this, or, don't forget to write that email. Oh, wait, you got to go on social media, check that. Get rid of that. Anything you can do to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Including alcohol. No, just kidding.
Don't. Alcohol kills the brain. 2 dovetails and then over to Fedora. So Mia, then Deborah, then Fedora.
Brian, I'm glad you brought that up, and this actually ties into your comment too about getting rid of those extra thoughts. There's another method that I remembered, Kundalini yoga has, they do a thing called their meditative gong therapy, and you can actually access this music on Spotify or what are the other formats out there, but anyway, just look up gong therapy sessions for Kundalini, and the gongs while they're playing, it's fascinating when you look at the science behind it, but it's actually too much for the brain to actually process at any given time, so it will actually zero out your entire brainwave pattern, and you just kind of wake up in this blank state. So I don't recommend doing this while you're driving, but it's fantastic to do it at your home, sitting at a chair, for a few minutes, and you just wake up so refreshed and wow, I'm ready to, I'm just full of power, ready to go.
And that's where Om comes in.
Yeah.
The Om sound, when you hit the right frequency, affects the human body.
Yeah.
Kind of the way cat purrs do.
Good
Deborah?
point.
So I have this unusual mind too. I mean, I think we all have a real interesting way that our brains work. I can't listen to music because, and definitely not repeated. Oh my God. Then I get that earwig loop just going and going. And literally for weeks, I'll wake up in the morning and it's in my brain. It's awful. So I could not do that. On the other hand, and I'm that way with sound generally. I just, it takes my attention away. So I like quiet, and quiet works well for me. But I did do a journey class for a number of years, and after a while, and you start out in your journey with a repetitive drum beat, and it did work after a while that I stopped hearing the drum. So I don't know how to explain how that happened, especially with my weird brain, but it did work. So I guess it's all about experimenting, what works for you.
I will tell you from working in a grocery store where they play the same thing every day.
God.
When I first got there,
retail.
my first few weeks, I heard every song, and then after that, I would look up every so often and be like, "That's a new one," and then the songs would just go away again. Like, so I don't know. It trained my brain to
That's your
ignore
brain
certain
saving
things.
itself.
Yes.
That's what we call survival.
Yeah, I remember retail. Oh God, those were horrible.
Fedora, and then
Well, it will come as a shock to no one at all that I am an iconoclast. I have an article which was written by Shirley Jump, who's a romance writer. It's called Meditation 101 for Writers, and it's in the current issue of Romance Writers Report. It is, of course, an article in praise of meditation. Well, I want you to listen to this. She says the main thing is not to be doing one thing and thinking of everything else. You want to let those thoughts fall away. And it's not resisting those thoughts. It's letting them come and go until the mind is at rest and the monkey brain stops chattering. Well, hello. Well, it sounds to me like the goal of meditation is nothingness. It is a vacant brain. It is nowhere. And I can see that would be calming. And in fact, I use Tai Chi breathing if I want to calm my overactive heart, okay? But as far as creative writing, give me a monkey brain. Give me 1,000 ideas. Give me an idea nobody else has. And let me find the one that will work for what I'm trying to accomplish. So I think meditation is good for calming. I'll go along with that. But for creative writing, hello, I don't think so.
well, I'll disagree with you on the last part of that. Then martial arts as well as Zen meditation, especially you can read a lot about it in a book or a series of letters, if you will, that were written by a Zen priest to a sword master in Japan called we translate it to the unfettered mind. The goal is the no mind, where you have got your mind cleared of everything in order at that point to focus.
But
That's what I
Yeah.
said.
see, here's the thing.
But yes, go ahead.
What the state a warrior is trying to achieve and the state a writer are trying to achieve are two different states of mind.
Which is true.
And where Fedora is going with this, and this is my question to Fedora would be, when you sit around and you think about these stories, when you're sitting down to think about how you want to write a book, and you sit there, and do you just sit there and just kind of like let your brain think on the story and kind of focus on the story and focus on the characters you want to write? Is there ever a moment where you're doing that, where you're not typing the key, where you're just thinking? Because that is a meditative state.
I think
that's
that
why I
happens
say
when
that.
I'm asleep and my subconscious does it.
See, and that's the
But is
I
that a
love the
meditative
subconscious.
state if you're not conscious of it?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Usually,
yeah.
no. The
Yeah,
point
yeah.
usually is to get rid of the conscious mind to bring forth the subconscious mind. So the answer to your question is somewhat yes.
Let me, Deborah, and then Mia.
I think the term meditation covers a really broad spectrum.
Yeah.
It does.
So you can meditate when you're asleep.
Well, you can call meditation whatever you want, is what I'm saying. So the point is, what can you do, what action or non-action can you do that helps to allow your creativity to flow? And whether it's something that you're consciously sitting down to release and just be still inside, whether you're walking, whether you're writing, whether you're doing something actively, it's how do you get to that point where your story wants to come to you? And you might call it meditation, you might call it something else.
I call it focus.
Mia?
Yeah,
Thank you, Brett.
I think Fedora, when you're talking about it happening in dream state, that's actually a whole nother realm of, I guess, energetic work on dream therapy. But for those type of people that you really have strong visions coming to you in dreams, I recommend just like keeping a journal or notepad
I do.
handily
Not
in your
me.
bed or on your bedside table. So I mean, when you come out of your waking state, upon waking in the morning, write whatever's been that first thing in your head from your dreams, because you can always look
No,
back on that.
if I sit down at the computer, something comes to me.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, and you can even start that before you go to bed at night. You could take that same journal and you could say,
I
thank
think-
you source for showing me what I need to know inside my dreams, you know, or just whatever question that you want to put out there. I always put a thank you at the beginning. I don't like demand from the universe, so to speak. But yeah, thank you for showing me what I need to see. Thank you for messaging, guiding me around the situation in my life. You know, and you'd be surprised when you put that question out there what will actually come to you in your dream states.
To answer your question, Fedora, yes, you can meditate when you're asleep.
Yes.
It's called lucid dreaming.
Yes, it is.
And it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I do it very often because my REM is horrible. And I naturally have the ability to lucid dream. It is a state of mind. It's a scientific state of mind. You're more than welcome to go look it up and read all about it. But it is a state of mind where your brain does not fall completely asleep. And while you are dreaming, you are aware of the fact that you are dreaming. Yep. You then have the ability to engage with your dream. Some people equate it to the Matrix style of Neo being able to manipulate the dream. I find that it is not that level. It is the dream is going on and you have the ability to see and interact with it, but you are still just in your mental self. So it is still just entirely interior. But I mean, my dream's going on. I'm completely aware of it. I know it's a dream. I know I'm dreaming. You know, there's a whole series, and this is where you can have whole conversations, talk about your issues of the day. You know, and it can be fun too. My favorite of all my lucid dreams was me and Val Kilmer running around as James Bond types with these glue squirt guns that we would fill up at water fountains along the way. But when we shot them, they was like glue stick guns, you know, sticky or like squirting it out, like get all over somebody and like, you know, gum them up so they couldn't run. Yeah, crazy stuff like that. The most insane dream you've ever had ever. Just running around having a blast because it's my mind and why not? So if you want to, there are ways you can lucid dream. There are techniques you can use and other things like that. You know, other people have used this for a variety of reasons. If you're at all interested in Edgar Casey, he did a lot of his psychic work through lucid dreaming and stuff like that. So there's a whole, lucid dreams are a very interesting realm to get into if you want. There's a lot of, you have to understand that all of it is imagery. It's all the brain's imagery. So I highly recommend getting any of the dream imagery books, or if you're going to do lucid dreaming, because you need to understand the symbolism that's going on.
I don't want to. I just want to sleep.
But, you know, I would love to sleep too, but unfortunately my brain doesn't get to shut off all the time, and sometimes, you know, I get to have a movie. It's nice for nightmares. I find it most helpful in nightmares, because then I have the ability to shut off.
Just real fast, I'm going to tie in there also too with lucid dreaming. It's also something which is used in for therapy to get past, how should I say, traumatic incidents in your life. Actually, I use that quite often, and I do control, so I am able to manipulate. But yeah, I have not had a nightmare in 30 years.
They'll start, but then I wake myself up and it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. It starts, but then I manipulate it and throw it out. Go ahead, and I'm not sure if Ryan, did you have your hand up?
Several times, but it's been really interesting.
I'm gonna go here to Kathleen, and then I'll kick it to you.
I used to have nightmares, and then I was like, nope. So I told myself stories at night, and that's how I would fall asleep. It would quiet my brain down. I was only thinking about one thing, and eventually I would fall asleep. Yesterday I took a plot nap that lasted all day. I told myself an entire novel. It was great. I don't know if that counts as meditation, but it's how I do naps now. They're plot naps because I feel productive, but I'm also really quiet and getting rejuvenated and rest.
There you go.
And I keep a notebook and pen so that I'll write stuff down and then just keep on it.
Ryan?
Wait, are you sure? Is it my turn?
No, it's not. It's your twin.
Go ahead and start talking
Yeah,
and then I'll
okay,
cut you off.
Okay, well, a long time ago in this podcast, I wanted to comment that the more I learned about meditation, different types, the more I realized that I've been doing different versions kind of all along, and I never noticed that until I learned about it. One of the very early ways I can remember, I guess now, meditating I come home from school about every day, and I get my bowl of cereal, and I would get my Legos out, and I would watch Redwall on TV. And I am a huge fan of Brian Jakes, a huge fan of Redwall, and I never realized that, building the Legos, it was occupying the front of my mind, And so I could immerse myself in the story. And now, with my first main book done, I realized how many elements are really, bone level in there. The other thing, a little more recently in the conversation, is one of my favorite living fantasy authors, Ursula Wynn, said in Wizardiversity, "Here, one must first be silent." And I love that quote. It's something that I've used again and again and again, whether I've been aware of it or not. But for me, it's getting out into nature, and it's hard for me here, living in the Midwest now, because it's hard for me to find that place. When I lived in New Mexico, you can get to places where there's nobody.
Oh yeah.
Miles all around, in the woods, and that was where I could just let everything go.
Ryan?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was gonna say there was some noise in the background. So could you say the quote one more time?
To hear, one must first be silent.
Okay. We're coming up on the end, so I'm going to.
Just a really quick one. The Shirley Jump recommends that if you're interested in more information, go find the app Meditation Studio.
And there are a lot of apps out there that are to help you with meditation. That one I'm not aware of.
You can also go to soundstrue.com. It's I started listening to their programming because they did audiobooks for Julia Cameron and Natalie Goldberg, but they have a lot of different things for meditation. They have courses, they have all sorts of things, and they have a phone app. So now I have all of my audio stuff on my phone.
And then we're going to close out. I want to ask Deborah and Mia. I know, Mia, you definitely teach some stuff on meditation and writing. Deborah, I believe you do too.
I at the moment, I don't have a class, though I have taught the Artist's Way and have taught some other creativity classes.
So,
yeah, but they're more generalized creativity. They're not just about writing, but something that you could use to open up any kind of creativity.
how can the audience? I know you gave your websites out earlier and so forth. Can you talk about what's on your websites as far as on this topic, and then we'll close it out.
My website for my card decks is www.whatifcards.com, and it shows some sample cards. And at the moment, that's what's on there. So I have a newsletter. If anybody's interested, they can contact me through that website and get on my newsletter if you want to know what else I'm up to.
Excellent.
Okay. And mine, you can access me at www.miasilverton.com. And I have, outside of my author information, there's also a section titled Learn With Me. And there you can access meditations that I've created. I also have a course that I'm running starting in October, and that will go over the next 7 months. We take different chakra levels for each month and go through that. And you can also access my coaching services there. So.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for the conversation. It's been definitely interesting. So tune in next week. Next week we are going to talk about Dorothy Woolfolk and making comic books mirror real world. So Dorothy, for your information, I forget if it's her birthday or her death month, but she was highly influential back in the 40s, pioneer female editor of DC Comics. So on that note, have a great week writing. Tune in next week. Have a great and take care. Thank you. Bye-bye. The new theme songs for Right Pack Radio were written and performed by Meredith Tate. All copyrights remain with her. Writers, agents, and publishers, for the first time since the Gutenberg Press, find themselves lost in a maze of mystery as technology alters the shape of the publishing